made that Cinderella run to the Sweet 16, made Dunk City popular, and he's bringing that here to Southern California. And finally, it seems that this program has embraced what he's trying to do.
Said it already in the open. Year 3 is usually when it happens. It looks like it's happening. You know, they got good young players, and it seems like everyone is bought in, everyone playing together.
An immediate offensive foul on Benny Boatwright of USC, and the Trojans turn it over 12 seconds in. Your Lexus keys to the game.
Idaho doesn't want to get into a running game with USC. They have better athletes. USC's bigger, so Idaho's got to rebound. USC offensive execution and on-ball defense are two areas that they've been talking about here early in the season that they need to get better at before they head into conference play in January.
And we're going the other way again. Another offensive foul. This on Victor Sanders of Idaho. So in the first 24 seconds of the game, we've had an offensive foul called against each side.
We're setting the tone early tonight, huh?
Hands off.
Little token three-quarter court pressure for Idaho. I think you'll see changing defenses from them. They want to confuse USC so that they don't get comfortable and they start scoring a lot of points. If this game's in the 90s, it really favors USC.
Benny Boatwright from the corner and a 3 to get USC on the board.
Well, that was his reputation coming in, that he could really shoot it early in the season. Only 34% from behind the line. I say only because I think he's going to be a better shooter than that long term.
Imagine that, a 6'10" guy, Don, that can really shoot it.
That's why you know how much I like him.
Arkady Mkirchin with a move inside for the Vandals to break the seal for Idaho.
Three-quarter court this year because of the shortened clock. We know from 35 to 30 you can shave off as a defense 7 or 8 seconds. Gives the offensive team even less clock.
The floater by Elijah Stewart and a foul going for the rebound inside. It's against Idaho. And the call is against Nahshon George, the sophomore from Kapolei, Hawaii.
Well, they got to get into USC's players early. You can't make it a jumping contest on the defensive board. And that's one thing that USC's really been better at this year is moving the ball, making the extra pass.
Travel called on Elijah Stewart.
The one concern they've had, though, the coaching staff is when they got down in that tournament in Orlando, and then when they've been up big, the ball stops moving a little bit. Guys are trying to get their own. They want to play the same way no matter what the score is or who they're playing.
Our officials who've been busy already in the first couple of minutes of this game, John Higgins, Mark Whitehead, Tom O'Neill. Good veteran crew working this game here in LA tonight.
Good offense there.
And the jumper from Arkady Mkirchin, who has all 4 for Idaho.
Well, good read by Sanders on the screen roll.
Julian Jacobs to the basket, draws a foul, will go to the line.
So athletic, Jacobs, and I mentioned in the open with him, makes spectacular plays every game, but then would have turnovers and things that would hurt the USC team. This year, he seems to be a little more under control, better decisions. You can tell by the numbers in the low turns that he is making better decisions, and that's why I think USC's off to such a good start, because it allows McLaughlin to play off the ball, who is a tremendous three-point shooter. They're spacing so good this year with Boatwright on one side, McLaughlin on the other, really stretching defenses out.
74%er Jacobs hits both free throws. USC leads by 1.
But now USC in a little three-quarter court pressure. They want to speed the game up.
Arkady Mkirchin goes inside. Nice up and under move, but the length of Boatwright caused him to miss the shot. Here comes USC.
I think he was looking for the foul, didn't get enough contact.
Errant pass from Jacobs sails out of bounds.
Jacobs, I've been selling you for the first 5 minutes of the broadcast. He really hasn't done that this year. I think this is my 3rd or 4th USC game and have not seen that. And we're over here hyping him up, and sure enough, throws it out of bounds.
He's got to play along with us better. The floater on the move, and Victor Sanders with a bucket for Idaho.
Like Idaho's purpose right now. Going right at USC. As I said, they don't want the game fast, but they're not settling either. Going right at USC's defense.
Without a doubt, this is the toughest test that Idaho has faced so far this year, is Nikola Jovanovic the bucket for USC. And the Vandals at 5-4 have played San Jose State actually a couple of times.
Well, they're a young team. They're not picked to finish real high in the Big Sky this year. Blue Ribbon had him picked 9th. But sometimes young teams can grow, and that's what this is about for Idaho. Scheduling these games so that your team can get high-level competition and grow before you get to conference play.
Jordan McLaughlin with the new mask, and it helps.
You know, he was telling me, Roxy, about the depth perception of the first mask he had and that it stuck out too much, and he couldn't pick up the rim as easily. This one, tighter to his face, said it's easier to have that depth perception. He's shooting the ball a lot better.
And it nearly ended up in our lap as he tried to hustle and keep that one in bounds. And when he broke his nose in Orlando, they just tried to get him anything to protect it and didn't really have a good fit. It was until he got back here that they found something that was more form-fitting to his face.
Which is understandable. You're on the road in Orlando, and obviously with technology now, you can get a mask that fits your face perfectly, and this one he's really happy with.
Did you ever have to put a face protection
or
a guard on?
Shooters don't like anything extra, and I know McLaughlin was like that. He said this one's better, but he still can't wait to get it off.
He's in the pile, loose ball, and a kick is called by USC. It goes to Idaho. Trojans by 4. As into the ball game is the freshman for USC, Chimezi Metu.
One thing I'm interested to watch tonight, again talking to the USC staff, is their screen roll defense. It's given them some problems. They've changed their coverages. They like to down it, but they've been fighting over some too. Area to watch tonight. They feel like they really need to improve on, because we know, Roxy, that everybody in the country uses ball screens in their offense to a certain degree.
And you look at the Idaho offense tonight, it's going to have a lot of similarities to what Mike Montgomery did for years at both Stanford and Cal, as Don Verlin is part of that coaching tree. Now, he never worked for Mike. As Sanders throwing up a shot that trying to draw a foul, didn't get the call. Another look for Sanders, and this one is short, and the rebound USC. But Don Verlin, as Elijah Stewart fires a 3, a longtime assistant for Stu Morrill, who had great success at Utah State, and Stu Morrill coached for Mike Montgomery at Montana.
There's a whole it'd take us a whole segment. Callan gets it to go down to talk about that whole coaching tree, but a lot of big-time coaches have been from that tree.
And 2 of them in the Pac-12 when you look at Larry Kraskowiak and Wayne Tinkle.
That's right.
Rebound Victor Sanders.
This Sanders is a good player. You saw him earlier. You mentioned he tried to draw the foul on the 3. He's pretty good at that. He's happened a bunch of times doing his best Jamal Crawford impersonation.
And the roll for Nahshon George, and we're tied at 10.
Good look ahead.
Nikola Jovanovic runs the floor.
Well, if you're going to get that lead pass, that incentivizes bigs to get out and run, and Jovanovic beats everybody down the court. Easy layup.
Nahshon George again on the block.
Well, that system that you were talking about before we got on the coaching tree, that card system is basically they just use cards to call out all their plays.
And the roll for Nahshon George.
Probably too much, too easy inside for Idaho here early. Give them credit. As I said, they're going right at USC, but not much defensive resistance from the USC bigs here early.
Good ball movement.
One more.
Elijah Stewart missing from the corner. The rebound cleared by Arkadium Kirchen for Idaho.
A good look for Stewart. He's been shooting it pretty well here early in the season.
And the jumper, and Perion Calendret gives Idaho the lead. And USC takes a time here back in the Big Sky.
Yep.
They were in the WAC from 2006 through 2014. Prior to being in the WAC, they were in the Big West Conference from 1997 through 2005. And prior to being in the Big West, they were in the Big Sky.
Right. Talking to Coach Verlin, he thinks this is a perfect fit. This is where they need to be. You know, the location of the other schools in the league, travel, all those things. It's a perfect spot for him, he thinks.
Ty Egbert the rebound for Idaho, and you look up in that where they are over on the eastern side of Washington, essentially. They're 8 miles from Washington State, which is a big rivalry game for them coming up. The Cougars will go to Moscow, Idaho, to take on Idaho. As the basket is good for Ty Egbert, and Idaho leads 16-12.
Yeah, that's Thursday night, and 8 miles away, you get a true road game without much effort.
As the Cougs will make the trek across the state border into Moscow, Idaho to play. Idaho, the Spectrum is inside the Kibbe Dome there where they play both football and basketball. The University of Idaho. But you look at the footprint of the Big Sky. Eastern Washington's about an hour and 15 minutes away. Montana's about a 3.5, 4-hour drive. Off balance, tough shot with a shot clock winding down, missed by Malik Marquetti. And here come the Vandals.
Well, one of our keys to the game for Idaho was rebound. They're doing a nice job here early, keeping USC off the offensive board.
And a steal for USC. Caton Reinhardt races up the floor, draws a foul, and one. Caton Reinhardt.
Well, that's what USC has to do, but they can't do it unless they get stops. And frankly, Idaho's been scoring too much. They got to get stops and get out and run. When they have, they've been able to score. But taking it out of the net too much, the game slowed down. USC needs to pick up the tempo of this game. The only way to do that is to string together some stops.
Fallon Perry on Calendret of Idaho. Reinhardt 6 of 8 at the line this year.
Has accepted his role of coming off the bench. Still scoring in double figures, 32% from beyond the line, only 42 from 2. Sometimes it takes you a while to get comfortable in that role. But the good news is he's accepted it. He's bought into the role.
And it's a role he can excel in, too,
yes,
being an instant offense kind of guy.
Exactly. If I were him, I would like that role. Come in with some of the second unit guys. You're the #1 priority on offense. You get a lot of shots.
Perry on Calendret from deep and a 3. Calendret 39% from downtown. And he's got 7. And the Vandals back up 4, matching their largest lead.
How often do we see this, Roxy, in November, December, where a team that you don't think really has much of a chance, but they get off to a good start and you just see their confidence continue to grow as the game goes, the more they have success.
And they start believing that they can win.
Yeah, they start believing they can win.
Reinhardt off on a 3. And the rebound going for it. And a foul is on Darian Clark as Calendret had the inside position. But Idaho, a good start here at the Galen Center. Coming up at the half.
You think he can win it, Roxy?
I do think he can win.
Do Stanford games come on too late on the East Coast?
Well, how many did they have that were late? It seemed like at least half of their games were late this year. But
He's
the
had a
all-purpose
terrific
yards,
year, man.
Remarkable season
Seriously.
for Christian McCaffrey.
See if USC can really dig in here defensively and get some stops. There's one.
They get a steal. It's their 3rd. Idaho is 9 of 13 from the floor. Benny Boatwright misses a 3, and Perry on Calendret the rebound.
Good shot for him, though. Trail 3 in transition. How about 6'10" guys stopping and popping in that transition? Pretty good stuff.
Deflected out. Last touch by Idaho. And it belongs to USC. 5 turnovers now in the Vandals.
Well, you think about Benny Boatwright playing against UCLA, Tony Parker and Thomas Welsh. You know, and he's running drag screens and stopping in transition. Are they going to want to get out there to contest him at the 3-point line? Going to be interesting to see matchups like that. Guys like Boatwright really create a lot of problems for opposing defenses.
Out of bounds. And it's an Idaho ball. Last touch by the Trojans. That's 5 USC turnovers now. Rather 6 turnovers against the Trojans. But yeah, the matchups, you look at the 4s around the league, and Ivan Rabb, will he go out and have to go out to the perimeter to chase down Boatwright? Ryan Anderson in Arizona.
Kuzma.
Savon Goodman in Arizona State.
Right.
Will he want to go out because he's such a physical rebounder for Bobby Hurley?
I think the more this goes along, the more ways Andy Enfield will figure out to use him to change the defenses and maybe change personnel groupings for the other team.
Deflected out, 4 on the shot clock as Malik Marquetti poked it out, and it went into the backcourt. So 4 on the timer for Idaho.
Need a quick hitter here if you're Idaho.
Having trouble getting it in. And they got to go quick. Nate Sherwood fires a 3. Way off the mark, but Egbert keeps it alive, and Idaho a fresh shot clock. Victor Sanders traveled.
But that just can't happen, Roxy. If you've stepped it up defensively and improved, as we've seen from USC this year, you get a late shot clock, you get, a contested shot that goes bank rim, you got to secure that rebound. You can't give that team another possession. They got lucky that they turned it over again, but USC not as engaged defensively as I've seen them in the few games I've been here so far this year.
And that's going to bother Andy Enfield as USC another turnover. 7.
I feel like Idaho's playing with a little more determination right now. I think the effort for USC is good, just a little bit sloppy and not as, I guess, engaged.
And the hustle from Chris Sarbaugh.
But Idaho's done a good job of dictating how they want to play. This game has not been fast. It's been half court, and they've made shots 69% from the floor for Idaho at that last timeout.
And checking the clock and taking the air out of the ball a little bit, the Vandals. And Nate Sherwood travel.
USC's gotten Idaho to travel the last 2 possessions, but just not the rhythm and flow that USC has played with early in the season.
And USC got off to that 5-0 start and some solid wins for the Trojans, but then after they beat Wichita State in Orlando at the tournament in their first round game, then went to the semis against Xavier, and that's when it kind of fell apart for Andy Enfield and USC as McLaughlin too strong.
A couple things happened in that game. McLaughlin breaks his nose in the first half, but also for the first time all year, they really got it taken to him by Xavier. Physical, tough, hard-nosed team really went after him.
Victor Sanders a 3. Idaho by 7.
And talking to the USC coaches, they thought that long-term that would be a good thing. They saw a big, physical, tough team because they were feeling pretty good about themselves up to that point, and that was a bit of a wake-up call for them. And then they got a wake-up call going right now, down 7 to Idaho at home.
Shot clock inside 10. 16-5 spurt for the Vandals. 3 from the corner, no good from Malik Marquetti. And we're staying on this end, says Mark Whitehead, a foul against Idaho.
Idaho's coming to the Galen Center, not afraid. Victor Sanders from deep. Idaho up 7.
Bobby Hurley, the newcomer in the Pac-12, with Danny Hurley, his brother at Rhode Island, the Drew brothers, and the Jones brothers.
For all the people that were wondering when you mentioned it earlier, Roxy, there you go. There's all the brother combinations across the country.
I guarantee you there were people wondering as Victor Sanders misses everything, but the Vandals keep it alive.
Tell you what, Bobby Hurley off to a good start. They slipped up in their first game, but ever since, they've been on an upward tick.
Nahshon George draws a foul, will go to the line, and a really good win for Arizona State to knock off number 18 Texas A&M Saturday night.
Went on the road, beat Creighton.
Yeah, that's a good win too. That's a good win, very underrated win. And the Belmont win for them is a good win as well.
Well, they're going to see what they're really made of. Guess where they are on Saturday? Lexington.
Fallon Chimezi Metu of USC is first.
Speaking of Kentucky, how about the weekend for the Pac-12 last week? Last weekend, UCLA knocks off number 1 Kentucky. Arizona goes into the kennel, knocks off Gonzaga.
Minus Caleb Tarczewski.
Yeah, Arizona State beats A&M like you mentioned. Great week for the Pac-12 last week.
As Nahshon George 1 out of 2. The JC transfer puts Idaho up 8.
SC better get it in gear here and give Idaho credit. I've already mentioned it. They are dictating the way the game's being played, and they're up 8.
Counted and 1 for Nikola Jovanovic.
Sometimes when you have a game like this, Roxy, you got to force the issue a little bit. Maybe even more than normal. And that was a good example of it. McLaughlin, not much there, but forces the issue, makes the pass, and they score. You don't want to get into using 20 to 25 seconds on every possession like Idaho is, because that's playing their game. You got to find a way to make it your game, but really it starts on the defensive end.
Jovanovic 74% from the line, misses, but the offensive rebound, Metu for USC.
He's going to be a nice player, Metu.
Foul was on Arkadiusz Kirchen of Idaho, his second, as Caden Reinhardt gets underneath for the bucket.
Find a way to manufacture some points. At that last timeout, SC was shooting 31%. If you recognize that, go get it off the offensive board.
That was a 4-point trip down the floor for USC. And a steal. Jordan McLaughlin races up the floor. The lob, and Metu the slam on the alley-oop.
That's what you need. Jordan McLaughlin getting in the passing lane, getting it down the court. Everybody running. Bring some life in, right on the money to Metu. That's what they need, a spark. They need a spark. They need to get everybody energized defensively. Guys like McLaughlin, who had a terrific freshman year until it was cut short last year. And I mentioned that in the open too, Roxy. The start he has had, aside from when he got to the broken nose, after having double shoulder surgery, just tells you what kind of a player he is, that he could come back from that, be out most of the summer, and right off the bat be playing at that high of a level.
So Jordan McLaughlin, all Pac-12 freshman team last year, and had surgery on, I guess Don told you, on both shoulders in the offseason, and he had to end his season prematurely toward the end of February last year.
How good of a season are you having if you missed the last 8 games and you're still on the all-freshman team?
Count it, and one for Ty Egbert. And a 6'9" junior with the bucket inside.
The scouting report on Idaho was their guards you kind of had to keep in check, and it's almost like Idaho knew that, so they're trying to pound it inside, and guess what? They're having some success. The USC bigs have to be more alert on back cuts, cross screens, do their work early, because Idaho's getting way too deep and scoring way too easily.
Second foul on Chimezie Metu. As the free throw good, and the three-point play puts Idaho up 5.
2-3 zone again for Idaho. SC's got to get that ball moving. And that corner's been open. They just really haven't been able to knock any down except for Boatwright one time.
And you mentioned when Idaho has the ball and what they're doing offensively as Jovanovic misses and the Vandals control it.
They're actually running more than I thought they would. I thought they'd walk it up every time and use clock. They've been running on opportunity. Nice
lob
look.
Inside. Egbert has it stripped out of bounds, stays with the Vandals, but look, in the Mike Montgomery system or Stu Morrill where Don Verlin coached, you go down that tree, one thing that they will do is they will run their offense. Yes. They will run sets. They will make you work defensively.
Precise, sharp cuts, get the ball from one side of the court to the other, really make you be patient defensively and engage for 20 to 25 seconds of that shot clock.
Nahshon George on the block. Size advantage on Caden Reinhardt and uses it.
Well, great patience by George. He knew he had the advantage, but didn't try and force it up through the contact, took his time and went over the top.
7 for George. The lead is 7 for Idaho. And a steal by Nahshon George.
Not a good decision by Stewart. Rarely can you throw a cross-court pass against a zone.
Perry on Calendret rattles out the 3, but the offensive rebound, Ty Egbert misses the putback, and it's out of bounds to USC.
Well, Elijah Stewart's got to know that against a 2-3, straight 2-3 zone, you're not going to get it from the left wing to the right block without it getting intercepted. But another extra possession for Idaho. They don't capitalize, but another offensive rebound for Idaho, who's dominating USC on the board right now.
It's 14-7. Idaho in rebound numbers.
Which you would think coming into this on paper, it would be the opposite.
And a 3 missed from Elijah Stewart, but the long rebound to Benny Boatwright for the Trojans. And this is a USC team that's a +5 rebound margin per game this year. Boatwright from deep.
And you see the range. That was an NBA 3. So a zone buster. Boatwright is rarely do 6'10" guys play on the wing of the zone offense, but Boatwright's such a good shooter, he does.
Here's Perry on Calendret. Jordan Scott, who's the brother of Colorado stud Josh Scott, as a shot way off the mark and a shot clock violation. And Jordan Scott trying to say the ball hit the rim, but the referees are saying no, it did not.
I was going to mention the Jordan Scott thing. I didn't know if you had said it already, but Josh Scott bigger than Jordan Scott. Let's see if that hits the rim. I didn't think it did from my vantage point.
It didn't appear to.
No. Ball didn't look like it changed rotation at all.
Yeah, but Jordan Scott, the younger brother of Josh Scott, all Pac-12 player.
Off to a good start this year. Finally healthy Josh Scott. Dealt with a lot of back stuff last year. Looks like he's moving better this year. The numbers back up for him.
And a good look, rattles and goes for Jordan McLaughlin. His second three.
You know, at his size, you'd think he's just a straight point guard, but as I've said, Julian Jacobs more on the ball. McLaughlin's such a good shooter that they got to get him shots.
Tough pull-up missed by Perry on Calendret. The Trojans running.
See if they can make a late surge here right before the half. Last 3.5 minutes.
They've scored 6 straight to cut it to 1. And a hold is called on Ty Egbert of Idaho. And it will put USC at the line for a 1-and-1, but USC getting into a flow offensively. Back-to-back threes. Boatwright, McLaughlin, SC down 1.
$15 to 3 points scored off turnovers, and the three ball as well. USC 4 for 11, Idaho 2 for 9, but Idaho shooting 52% as a team here in the first half. And we've been here early in the season celebrating the improved USC defense, but up until the last minute or two, defense hasn't been as good as it's been for the good part of the start of the season.
1 out of 2 for Jovanovic. 28 up, 3:20 left in the half. Jovanovic leads USC with 7. 7 each for Nahshon George and Perry on Calendret to lead the Vandals. Here is Jordan Scott.
They've definitely used more clock here the last 5 or 6 possessions on offense.
Off balance in the lane, and Victor Sanders ends a 7-0 USC run.
He's their leading scorer, and he's off to a good start in this one as well.
Jordan McLaughlin missing a 3. The tip slam by Elijah Stewart.
Elijah Stewart and Julian Jacobs each, at least one time a game, have a highlight reel play, either on offense on plays like that, or defensively at the rim with blocks chasing guys down. 2 high-level athletes.
And Jordan McLaughlin pokes it away, and a steal. 11 turnovers by Idaho.
Great anticipation by McLaughlin on the backside.
And an offensive foul is called on Nikola Jovanovic.
I think that might have been on Stewart on the drive before the pass. McLaughlin with the miss, and Stewart showing that athleticism.
And it is Stewart called for the foul.
Yeah, I think he got in the air to pass, and before Jovanovic caught it, picked up the offensive foul.
Idaho at 5-4. USC at 6-2. As the Trojans, a win tonight, trying to go to 7-2 for the first time since 2006-2007 when they started 9-2.
Well, they have a real opportunity, Roxy, to be 11-2 heading into conference. The next 5, including tonight, are here at home against teams they should beat.
And a foul is called, and it's on Idaho for a clear out on Victor Sanders, his second foul.
You got Idaho tonight, Yale, Cal Poly, Southern. There we go.
Upcoming schedule for USC presented by Jared. Yeah, there is Yale, Cal Poly, SIU, Edwardsville.
Yep.
Lafayette before they open up conference play in the Palouse on New Year's night.
Washington trip to start. Washington State's improved this year.
Jordan McLaughlin missing a three, and Jordan Scott the rebound. The Vandals push. Chad Sherwood from the corner. And the rebound, Jovanovic, and a foul. They're calling a hold on Egbert, who looks at Mark Whitehead in disbelief. Second on Ty Egbert.
You know, we were talking about this the other night, Roxy, me and JB Long, who I do games with as well. Who's going to finish last in the league this year? Isn't that a good question? I don't know. You know, the preseason media poll had Washington State last, Washington 11th, but those two teams are improved. I think those freshmen for Washington are really good. It is going to be a very good conference season this year. A lot of parity. I think you're going to see a lot of teams win at home this year.
Nikola Jovanovic now just 1 of 4 at the line. Tied at 30, a minute left in the half.
This first half couldn't have gone any better for Idaho.
And another
except for the turnovers.
That's another one. And that's 13 turnovers by Idaho. Now they do commit 17 per game.
But the way they've shot it, they should have a lead. And the reason they don't have a lead is because of the turnovers. They keep giving it back to USC.
Paulin Pawe into the ball game, a senior from San Bernardino for Idaho. And a foul committed by the Vandals, and it's on Jordan Scott.
Jordan McLaughlin attacking, and that's what I love about his game. We've been talking about how Jacobs is more on the ball and he's off. Well, that time McLaughlin had the ball in his hands, making a play, getting himself to the free throw line.
And he misses. And McLaughlin is 71%er, and USC now just 4 of 9 at the line.
68% coming in USC, which isn't great, not bad. But in college, you would like to, as a team, be over 70% if you can. Surprised McLaughlin's not a better foul shooter, only 71%. As well as he shoots it from behind the three-point line, you would think he'd be up at least at 80% from the foul line.
And the Trojans leaving points at the line, and he missed 2, and it also kills you when he missed the front end of a 1-and-1 like Jovanovic has done twice.
But again, this is what Idaho wanted, a choppy game with no rhythm, no flow, and that's the byproduct sometimes. Guys out of rhythm, they're missing free throws, missing open looks, turning it over.
Trojans could play for the last shot of the half, out of bounds to USC.
Especially when USC's had a lot of free-flowing games here early against lesser competition. This is going to be a challenge for them. They're going to have to grind this one out, make good decisions, and start making free throws and doing some of the things that they normally do.
Shot clock winding down. Jacobs, three-pointer short. Chris Sarbaugh the rebound, and we are tied at the half. 30-30, but changing things a little bit. Caden Reinhardt will start the second half instead of Elijah Stewart for USC.
Wonder if it's to give them a little more pop offensively. Stewart didn't play real well in the first half, but usually you don't give up the starting spot.
Carry on Calendret over to Victor Sanders. Here's Nahshon George.
More of the same, using good chunk of that shot clock.
Calendret from deep. And that one rattles out, and the rebound, there's Benny Boatwright for USC.
So he can bring it too. Really skilled for a guy his size. We've talked about his shooting, but I think you'll see more of that as this year goes on as well. Rebound, bring it in transition, make a play.
Nikola Jovanovic goes inside, running across the lane, and the rebound, Nahshon George for Idaho.
It's a tough shot, running away from the basket, got a little bit of contact. But trying to judge that shot, I'd rather come to a jump stop and go left shoulder jump hook instead of running right hand hook.
Julian Jacobs short on a 3, and a good defensive rebound by Arkady Mkirchin for Idaho. Good ball movement. Calendret open. And the rebound, another one. That's the third rebound already in the second half for Jovanovic.
There's been a lot of wide open threes like this one from Reinhardt. That's the first one, Roxy, that's been teed up. And by that I mean you're so open that you slow down your mechanics and kind of aim it up there. It's such a mistake by players. If you catch it and shoot it the same way every time, it goes in more. When it's a different shot, you hold on to it longer, feel like you miss it more than you make it. We've seen that some tonight.
Benny Boatwright the rebound. USC with their first lead since early in the game.
Whether you're open by 2 feet or 15 feet, you should shoot it the same way every time, like that, in rhythm.
Benny Boatwright, his third three. And that's the start Andy Enfield wanted here. 6 straight points for SC to open up the second half.
And again, why? Because Idaho hasn't scored yet. They've gotten stops here the first 2.5.
Well, Don, you alluded to in the first half for those individual teams, but the perception nationally when you have wins like that help the Pac-12.
Well, and think about it, Roxy. A year ago, UCLA, it was a big story in college basketball because they were down 44-7 at halftime to Kentucky. A year later, they flip around and beat them. So, yeah, perception, a big deal, and a good one for UCLA.
USC with a good win already against Wichita State. Now, Fred VanVleet didn't play in that game, but still, it was a good win against a very good team.
Hey, Roxy, it's better than losing it.
That's true. And Caden Reinhardt is fouled down low. And it's on Chris Sarbaugh of Idaho, and the graduate transfer from San Diego. His first.
Now let's see if USC can continue to get stops and get the ball down the court. Reinhardt in the starting lineup to start the second half. Turnover on the out-of-bounds play.
Julian Jacobs fell down. And there's still some opportunities to get good wins for the conference when you look at Arizona State will go to Kentucky and go to UNLV still as Nahshon George gets the roll. He leads Idaho with 9. UCLA is going to Gonzaga Saturday. They're still going to play North Carolina.
Yep.
Neutral site game at the Barclays Center in New York and Brooklyn. Cal's playing at Virginia. Metu on the slam. Good ball movement.
Great touch pass by Reinhardt. Big time finish. Metu always over the rim, but you're right, Roxy. I don't know who put together that UCLA schedule, but man, challenge to say the least.
Arizona State's in the same boat. Some other good games coming up. Missouri's at Arizona on Pac-12 Network next Sunday. Colorado hosting BYU Saturday night on Pac-12 Network.
Glad to see Colorado seemingly back on track. I know it's early, but tough year last year. A lot of injuries.
Much better chemistry.
Yeah, it seems like they're more together. They're playing hard. Josh Scott's healthy this year. George King, who redshirted last year after a tremendous start.
Foul on Julian Jacobs of SC as Victor Sanders to the line.
What, do we got, a wet spot?
Yep, so the broom comes out. Though those are a little more high-tech than when you were playing, what they used to sweep up the floor now. Ball boys just come out with a towel.
On their knees with a towel.
Sanders shooting 2. Sophomore from Portland and Jefferson High School.
Good shooter as well. We've been talking about McLaughlin, but coming in, Sanders 86 at the line, 46 from behind the three-point line. Weird tonight. The good shooters are all missing their foul shots.
1 out of 2 for Sanders. Jordan Scott in for Idaho. 5-point game.
SC still got some work to do. A better start to this half than the first half. But you just said it, only a 5-point lead with obviously plenty of time to go.
Nice pass by Jordan McLaughlin, and Chimezie Metu will go to the line to shoot 2. Second foul to Nahshon George, but Metu, the freshman, attacking the rim. He's done a nice job off the bench.
Virginia.
Rattles out from Chimezie Metu, now just 6 of 15 at the line this year, as he was a highly touted prospect out of Lawndale, ranked number 48 in the ESPN 100, and he gets the roll on the second.
He's just scratching the surface as a player, has relied on his athleticism to dunk and block shots. I think he'll improve individually, offensively, as his time goes on here at USC.
SC now 5 of 11 at the line tonight, but they lead it by 6. It matches their largest.
And Idaho still staying connected. Only a 6-point game. Tempo still really is in their favor.
Turnover by the Vandals.
See if SC can capitalize here.
Elijah Stewart open. And a foul going for the rebound, and it's on USC as Mkurchin was thrown down. And it's on Benny Boatwright of the Trojans, his second.
Quality looks tonight. More for SC, but some for Idaho as well. We're just wide open from behind the line and just haven't been able to get many to go.
Pass deflected, but Perry-on Calendret runs it down for the Vandals.
They started the game running on opportunity. They're basically turned this into a half-court game. Shot clock under 10 again.
And a three-pointer, a tough shot from Victor Sanders.
Well, you figure that's the guy. If they're going to get over the hump and maybe win this thing, Sanders is going to have to get it going from behind the line.
And
got 11 now.
Boatwright from deep. Steps into it. He had a good look. And he leads USC with 12.
Well, you know that's coming from him, and a little surprise Idaho isn't staying more attached to him because he can really shoot it. Give a guy like that any room, he's probably going to knock it down.
He had 5 threes in the Trojans' win against Wichita State in Orlando. Arkady Mkurchin. And a goaltend against Metu as Boatwright tried to draw the charge, didn't get the call.
There was contact there, but let's see how much contact there was. Did Boatwright sell it a little bit? The officials thought so. I tend to agree.
It was a little bit of a flop.
Little bit. There was contact, but it's not like he dropped the shoulder and really ran into him.
Reinhardt steps back.
Tough shot.
And the rebound, Perry-on Calendret running up the floor for Idaho. Calendret from deep. Offensive rebound. Nahshon George has his shot blocked by Metu, and George gets it back and deflected out by Benny Boatwright. The length of Metu.
Yeah. Well, but what's Andy Enfield going to say? How did he get the offensive rebound in the first place? But a good recovery by Metu to not let him get the shot off. But too many offensive rebounds for an undersized Idaho team tonight.
Boatwright 4 of 5 from 3. The rest of the Trojans just 3 of 15 from out there. While Idaho, even though they shot it well inside the arc, just 3 of 13 on their threes tonight.
On SC, 37% as a team coming in, which is pretty good. I mean, it's a small sample size. We're early, but some nights it's like that, and you got to get other areas to pick you up, like the defensive end.
Malik Martin, the lob for Metu, and the follow from Malik Marchetti.
Great hustle by Marchetti to trail the play. Sometimes you just give up on that because you think it's going to be a dunk, but Marchetti trails it, puts it back in.
First action of the night for Malik Martin, the sophomore from Miami.
Well, there's a steal by Metu. Kicks it ahead to Martin. Pass a little bit underthrown. Martin probably, if he had kept it, could have went in there and dunked that.
Scott with a look from deep. And the rebound, and a foul is called as Nate Sherwood the rebound for the Vandals. And it's on USC in the first, called against Malik Marquetti.
When I was here earlier in the season, this was probably the biggest issue USC was facing, was rebounding their own defensive board. And I talked about it in the first half. Feel like they had corrected it to a certain degree, but it's kind of reared its ugly head again here tonight.
Foul called inside, and it's on Caton Reinhardt of USC for a push. First personal, fourth on the Trojans.
You know what it seems like tonight, Roxy? There's a lack of concentration by USC. So I feel like they're playing with effort. It's just mistakes and missed shots usually have to do with not being totally committed to concentrating on the game.
Second on Julian Jacobs.
You know, fouls like that, are you concentrated because you know they're going to be called? You know, are you thinking about what you're doing at all times? And it's allowed Idaho to hang around here tonight.
Ball stripped by Reinhardt. Last touch by Ty Egbert of Idaho, and it belongs to USC.
And because Idaho continues to turn it over, they haven't made USC pay for the mistakes that they've made.
16 turnovers
16 now. And USC is only up 6. If you would have told me before the game Idaho would have 16 turns with 12 minutes to go, I'd say USC's up 25.
Metu missing from the top. For Idaho, if they can play like this, when they get in a league play in the Big Sky, they're going to have a chance to finish in the top of the league and be in a good position with the Big Sky Conference tournament moving and based in Reno this year.
If they can shoot it and guard and rebound like they have tonight, they got a chance against anybody in that league.
And the league, Eastern Washington won it last year as far as the tournament. Montana was the regular season champs. And former Cal assistant Travis DeCuire, now in his second year as the head coach in Montana, has Julian Jacobs from deep.
Sacramento State from that league, you hate to say it because we're on the Pac-12 network, but went in and beat Arizona State first game of the year this year.
In Northern Arizona, Jack Murphy, a former basketball staffer at Arizona, the head coach at NAU. They're always a solid team. Tad Boyle, formerly coached in the Big Sky, the Colorado coach at Northern Colorado, where his former top aide is now the head coach there, B.J. Hill, as a tough shot goes, and Jordan Scott banks it in somehow.
And you know what? That was pretty good defense by USC. Good challenge at the end. Scott gets it to go off the backboard.
Former Oregon assistant Brian Fish, the head coach at Montana State. Players get tangled up off the ball. Wave off the shot, says John Higgins. And it's a foul against Idaho, and some trash talking going on. The teams need to be separated a bit. Foul on Nate Sherwood of Idaho. USC trying to pull away. They lead it by 5.
Their season is. It all comes down to the conference tournament. Everybody wants to play in the NCAA tournament, but you can only do that as a member of the Big Sky by winning the conference tournament, no matter how great you were in the regular season.
Last year, Tyler Harvey leading Eastern Washington to the Big Sky Conference Tournament Championship. 5 threes tonight for Benny Podright.
What a weapon he is stepping out. That was a called play out of a timeout for a corner three. He knocks it down.
Largest lead for the Trojans. Should point out that Tyler Harvey's dad, Frank Harvey, is a Pac-12 referee. And last year, Tyler Harvey led the country in scoring and left early after his junior year to go to the NBA.
51st pick, I believe.
Yeah, second rounder. And he's stuck. 6 to shoot for the Vandals. Eastern Washington still will be a good team this year. Vanke Joyce. It's a good group that Jim Hayforth has at Eastern Washington, as that shot way off with a shot clock winding down, and USC will get the ball out of bounds. They're saying it was out of bounds before Ty Egbert could save it.
Would have been a shot clock violation anyway. It didn't hit the rim on that long shot by Calendret. So either way, USC ball. I was just looking at the schedule again for USC. We mentioned they have 5 in a row here at home against teams they should beat. But this is a time as Jovanovic gets a layup where you need to keep working on your habits, building your habits and how you want to play no matter, what style of play comes in here. And you can't just throw away games. Not that this has been a complete throwaway, but certainly not USC's best.
I think Victor Sanders needed more time on that 3, Don.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Defensive habits tonight, they have not been sharp defensively for most of the night.
Sanders leads the Vandals with 14 as Jovanovic and Egbert get tangled up going for the rebound. And a jump ball. And the arrow points to USC.
Good effort by both players. But yeah, you're right, Roxy. That last defensive possession, there's no way that the best player on the other team should have 3 seconds to get a 3 ball up.
And the flip up and in by Julian Jacobs.
He is so good at getting in the lane off a screen roll or just straight line drives. This year finishing a lot better. You saw it there, a little flip in the lane.
A lot of offensive weapons at the disposal of Andy Enfield. 6 guys averaging in double figures for USC this year. Deep 3 on the way. And that's no good from Victor Sanders and Malik Martin, the rebound.
I feel like Idaho's settling now, not using clock, looking for anything, just kind of putting up threes. Is Jovanovic again inside. USC starting to impose their will offensively.
And the size with Boatwright playing the 3 along with. And that's, again, one of the points of emphasis this year is they're trying to speed up the game and get more flow to it. And they're warning teams the next one will be a technical foul if USC is late getting back out onto the floor. Chris Sarbaugh. Nahshon George up and under. Nice move by Nahshon George.
You know what? I really like his patience. He's got pretty good feet, too, down there. Takes his time, makes his play.
11 for George, and here's the zone from Idaho.
Well, does Idaho have enough firepower? Now that this thing's 9, we're just under 8 minutes. Do they have enough firepower to come back and get over the hump? Feel like they need to keep this thing under 10 if they're going to have a chance.
Sarbaugh the rebound as Martin missed a 3. Here's a 3 on the way. Too strong from Chad Sherwood. Julian Jacobs races up the floor, attacks. And the rebound falls to Chad Sherwood. George leaks out, but the ball deflected out of bounds. And after initially pointing Idaho, John Higgins corrects himself and says it is a USC basketball. 7:20. Nikola Jovanovic with 11, along with a USC high 6 rebounds for the Trojans. Victor Sanders leads Idaho with 14, Nahshon George with 11.
USC 53% from the floor in the second half versus 39 in the first. Getting better opportunities, a little more transition opportunities this half as well.
Nahshon George. Shot clock inside 5. Up and under by George. Metu blocks the shot. And a shot clock violation against Idaho.
Well, good patience by George again, but I think Metu's starting to size him up a little bit, if you will, on the block. He knows he's going to take his time. George tried to step through. Metu got a piece of it at the rim.
17 turnovers tonight by Idaho. And USC, a much better job of taking care of the ball here in the second half. Just 1 turnover after 9 in the first half.
Well, Idaho's only scored 17 points here in the second half. We only got 6:40 to go.
Reinhardt. And a turnover by USC. Just as we were praising their job of taking care of the ball in the second half.
But the game not over. Even though Idaho's only scored 17 points, it's a 9-point game. Couple 3 balls by Idaho, and this thing gets really interesting.
Calendret and Sanders can shoot it. Here's Sanders, a good look. And the rebound, Benny Boatwright for USC.
Oh, that was a called play, and Sanders came off clean. SC lucky he didn't knock that down.
Foul before the shot on Chris Sarbaugh of Idaho. First, or rather second, against the senior from Spokane.
But again, speaking of the mistakes and maybe the little bit of lack of concentration, Sanders, the best player on the team. I don't care how great the screen was. How does he come off that clean at this part of the game?
Caden Reinhardt from the corner. He has 11.
He can really get it going. We talked about him in the first half. He's going to have some nights. Even though he's coming off the bench, he did start the second half tonight.
Boatwright knocks it free, and a tie-up is Metu, along with Arkady and Kirchin, have to be separated. And on the arrow, it's an Idaho basketball.
Well, you now have a 12-point lead. No reason for Met to pick up any extracurricular here.
And Kirchin, and he draws a foul on Boatwright. Third on Benny Boatwright.
Getting a little chippy right now.
6 on USC, and it's been a little John back and forth all night.
But it's interesting. It's the biggest lead of the night, and now all of a sudden it's getting chippy.
And now Tom O'Neill having to step in there, talk to Arkady and Kirchin, who seems like he's been in the middle of the stuff that's happening. And over and back calls him. Kirchin had it in the front court. Momentum carried him into the back court.
I was just going to say that. It would have been okay if the ball had gone all the way to the back court, but he touched it in the front court. Therefore, you can't go touch it in the back court.
18 turnovers for Don Verlin's team.
Well, when they watch the tape of this, they're going to, you know, they gave themselves an opportunity tonight, and the game's not over, but they gave themselves an opportunity by playing the style they wanted. It's just the turnovers have really hurt them.
It's been an issue for them all year. That's something Don Verlin's got to get cleaned up before they get into Big Sky play. As Caden Reinhardt, another three.
Well, now it's stretched out to 15. Idaho can't use clock like they have been. They're going to have to go a little bit faster now.
11 threes tonight for USC. Offensive foul, illegal screen. And that's on Kirchin. His third, and that's another point of emphasis this year, Don. You got to give a step when you set that blind screen.
Yep. Nothing fancy from USC, just Reinhardt spotting up on the weak side, and Jacobs finds him.
USC 11 of 26 from beyond the arc. They've made 12 two-point field goals, 11 threes tonight. And one. Julian Jacobs.
Well, I said it earlier. USC has just kind of imposed their will in a 12-2 run here the last 4 minutes and 10 seconds. Idaho not able to get the stops that they were getting in the first half and early in the second half. But give USC credit. They played with a little more force here in the second half.
And one free throw for Jacobs, 2 of 2 at the line tonight. Spins out in the rebound. Victor Sanders, and this one's gotten away from Idaho. This was a tie game at the half. And Idaho led by as many as 8 in the first half as Ty Egbert with the hoop.
And it's not like USC went on a crazy run to push this out to 15 either. It's been kind of a slow bleed with the turnovers from Idaho, and USC's been sharper offensively, and it's just been able to push this lead out.
Rebound Jordan Scott.
No reason for USC to go quick in the clock now.
Victor Sanders, a three. 17 for Sanders.
And not going to go out there and check him. You might get some cross matches though, where the 5-man guards another player, And a more athletic guy that's willing to go out on the perimeter would match up with Boatwright. But again, what if, again, I use the example UCLA, Parker and Welsh. Which one of those two is going to go out there?
Shot clock inside 10. Here he is from deep. That three is off from Benny Boatwright. SC is led by as many as 17 here.
Roxy, it's our first game of the year together. We'll be again together on Wednesday. How come every time tonight we've sold something, it's gone the opposite? We were just talking about Boatwright and his ability.
We're not in midseason form yet. But by midseason, they'll be on cue with us.
Yeah, seriously, that's how it's supposed to go.
Julian Jacobs. And the rebound run down by Perry-on Calandret. Nice pass. It's deflected. Had a good angle there, and it's USC coming away with it. McLaughlin to the basket, missed a layup.
In between.
And a foul. Boatwright will go to the line. It seemed like that angle was there on a feed to the hoop, and USC quickly cut it off, and it led to a fast break for the Trojans.
I think it was a hand by McLaughlin, got it, and then he gets out ahead, and he was in between whether to just put it straight in or put it off the backboard, but Boatwright there for the follow.
20 turnovers now for the Vandals tonight.
And I'm going to say this, and I think Andy Enfield would agree with me, Roxy. 20 turnovers, and this wasn't nearly USC's best defensive effort. Not even close on the season.
Boatwright now is 17. It's a young career high of 22 when he had 5 threes against Wichita State. Boatwright has hit 5 threes tonight. Idaho ball. So next up for USC, they'll be off until Sunday when Yale comes to the Galen Center.
Who played Duke tough earlier in the year.
They did. At Cameron Indoor Stadium. Tipped out. Leaking out. Jacobs drops it in.
I was thinking when he was he was out of position there for something really spectacular. I'm like, oh, he's just going to lay it up. I don't think it's in Julian Jacobs' DNA to lay anything up.
23 of SC's 68 have come off turnovers tonight. And another Idaho giveaway.
See, most guys would have just laid this up. You know, he couldn't get a running start a little bit, but not Jacobs. He's dunking everything.
Julian Jacobs, 11 points tonight. In for USC for the first time is Strahinja Gavrilovic, a senior from Serbia. And also taking advantage, Don Verlin able to get some guys some playing time as well. Nick Blair, freshman from Las Vegas. Also for the Vandals, checking in for the first time is Skylar White.
Seems like a little early, doesn't it? It's only 16. I'm not saying Idaho could come all the way back, but 16-point game, you usually don't see coaches making those kind of substitutions.
And a foul inside. Patrick Ingram also in for Idaho. Malik Martin to the line. SC has pushed it out. As you said, they've just kind of bled him.
Right.
21-10 as they have pushed this lead out to 16, leading by as many as 17.
You know, usually the highly athletic offensive teams like USC go on big runs, like a 12-0 run in like 2 minutes. But it really hasn't been like that tonight. But they've been able to push it out because of the turnovers of Idaho. Empty possession after empty possession, it seemed like, for Idaho.
And a hustle by Caden Reinhardt, but he tipped it out of bounds. And they're saying it was last touch by Idaho and Nick Blair. Also in for the Vandals, Jake Strawn, redshirt freshman from Colton, Washington.
Surprised McLaughlin's still in, nursing that broken nose still.
Here he is turning the corner. Stays with USC. Caden Reinhardt, 17 for Benny Boatwright. We've talked about him, but Reinhardt, 14 points, 3 steals, and came off the bench to start the game, but got the nod to start the second half. And a steal by Skylar White.
Well, and started most of last year. I think he's one of those players that's comfortable either way, but I think his role, you see him knock down a three there.
They're starting to get in rhythm with us now.
Yeah. He, be that offensive spark plug coming off the bench. I think that's a perfect role for him.
Reinhardt is tied a season high.
Players don't like it, Roxy, but I'm sure Andy Enfield and his staff are looking forward to a good week of practice.
And a three is way off from Strawn, but the follow, Paulin Pawe.
Are there exams this week, USC?
They're coming up. What was it like for you right before finals? And you had to take it twice during the season with because you UCLA on the quarter system.
Yeah, it wasn't fun. Sometimes we had to take them on the road.
Samir Dillon checks in. And that's what Oregon's dealing with right now, is they're in finals. They just played a road game in Vegas on Friday night, and they're at the Pearl Harbor Invitational, played in Hawaii. A couple of their players I was talking to are taking finals just in a conference room over at the hotel in Hawaii.
Take them on the airplane. Why not? You got 5 hours, right?
Computers work. Samir Dillon, walk on from Sacramento, and a shot clock violation on USC.
Again, I'm sure they'll watch this tape tomorrow and see that, I talked about the habits. What's your approach to every game? Doesn't matter if it's Idaho or Wichita State or Xavier. It doesn't matter. You come out with the same approach, the same intensity, the same attention to detail. And they're going to win this game, but certainly not one of their best efforts of the season.
Nick Blair draws the foul. We'll go to the line here with 38.1 to play. Reminder coming up next, Pac-12 Sports Report here on Pac-12 Network, as they'll talk with Christian McCaffrey, the Stanford standout. Is he headed to New York? Yes, he is. He will be a finalist at New York when the Heisman Trophy is handed out next week, on Saturday. One more for Blair, the freshman from Las Vegas, and Bishop Gorman. 1 out of 2. And a foul called against Blair, and Malik Marquetti will go to the line here.
I haven't done any soapbox stuff with you tonight, Roxy.
Okay, let's go.
Time and
it
score.
wouldn't be a Donnie Mack show if you didn't do it at least once.
You're down 17. There's 35 seconds to go. Why are you fouling? Not that you have to stop playing, but you're not going to win. So I've never understood that.
My only thinking here is you have a guy on the end of the bench, Don, doesn't get in very much. So they stop the clock looking to get the ball back and try to get
so
points
he's
up on the
trying to
board.
show the coach that he can really ball pressure and guard full court.
But also he's trying to get some points at the other end. That's what it's probably about the points is what it's really about.
So you're saying he got that foul because he thought he was going to get a steal and go the other way and score.
Or foul to get the ball back because you can't score if you don't have the ball.
Right.
Final 20 seconds. Always thinking about the offense.
You're lucky, Roxy. Just be happy that you didn't have the first couple games with me when we went over all the new rules early in the season.
I had to deal with it, believe me. It was all an adjustment for the players, the referees, the coaches, and the broadcasters.
That's right.
Well, USC, after a sluggish start, trailing by as many as 8 in the first half, and a tie game at the half, but they pulled away from Idaho, winning it by 19, 74-55.
I think USC will learn from this, that they're going to see some games like this where teams are going to try and chop it up and use clock, and that they're going to have to be patient with it, but also that you have to come out with the same intensity no matter who you're playing. Idaho stuck with them for an entire half. It was tied at halftime, but USC better offensively in the second half, and that's why they were able to pull away. Idaho turned it over too much, but certainly a game that USC can learn from.
USC hit 12 threes in the ball game as they really put the clamps down in Idaho in the second half, and turnovers a big problem for Idaho tonight against USC.
Well, coming in, they knew that they were overmatched athletically, and they knew if the game got fast, they would have a problem. So you would think in more of a half-court game, they wouldn't turn it over as much. Unfortunately for Idaho, they did, and USC was able to pull away.
Benny Boatwright, 5 threes tonight, goes for 17 points. Also